Well, Diana, I wanted to ask you a little bit about senior care because today you're at an age where you're looking at your parents, you're looking at your uncles, the rest of the family who are getting more senior. Well, the good news is that life expectancy is much higher now. People live healthier lifestyles and they live longer, and the general quality of life as you grow older has improved tremendously. However, I wanted to see from the viewpoint of millennials, with your very transient lifestyle and the way most millennials see themselves not being in one place for long. How do you see the links to your family, and how do you see that whole situation being managed about taking care of your seniors, your parents? What's your view on the whole subject?
Okay, so I personally would love to take care of my parents by myself when they're old. I want to live with them. However, I think in such a busy era nowadays, I think a lot of millennials are looking for a place where they can put their families, the parents who are getting old, such as an elderly care or senior care.
Yeah.
Who can the place where is suitable for the parents to have fun with friends, do some fun activities, and of course convenient for us to visit them.
So proximity, being nearby is important.
Nearby is more convenient.
Okay.
However, if it's more comfortable for them to live far, then I think it's still fine as long as we can visit them and it's convenient for us to visit them.
Okay. So what's different from how millennials think about this versus the others? Is there any major difference in trend in the way that you think about this? Do you think millennials think differently from the others?
Right. I think in the future we definitely more millennials definitely more need
Yeah.
good senior care because especially in Indonesia we don't have like a very good senior care. I
Yes.
think
So that's missing. You say that's
yeah,
missing here.
that's missing, and
Okay.
especially in Indonesia.
Okay. Okay, good. So, Colonel Sridharan, I want to ask you, you have been building senior care facilities in India for many years. I think you have over 30 projects, and you yourself mentioned that you have started with a concept and ended up with a very different concept today. So, where do you see the role of millennials having played in the way you changed your concept?
See, first of all, the senior care is not only for the senior citizens per se, it also takes into the interest of the children.
Yeah.
If the children are worried about the parents, what they are going to be and what is going to happen to them, and their lifestyle doesn't make them stay with them wherever they go. And also one thing I must tell you, the senior citizens don't want to keep shifting like these young millennials. No, we like some stability.
Yeah.
And even if you say a package, the house will be available there, I don't want to go to that package, I'm quite happy with this package.
Okay.
So, given that, I think there will be a fundamental shift in their ideas which will propel the parents out of necessity and also ensure that they get the best of services and care. That is what they are looking for the parents, that's what they would like to give. But because of the lifestyle that they are leading, they are not able to give that, so that they want someone to provide it for them and taken care of as much as or as near to as what they would have done themselves. So what do I see in this? I see two things. After all, with the prop tech, even the senior living will also be upgraded. It is not that the senior living is going to remain where it is today, and the technology is going to only take care of the dwellings of the millennials. So they are also going to get upgraded. It may so happen over a period of time that they may shift from place A to place B, but on the place A when they started living, perhaps the seniors can also live with them and they don't move out of that place at all. That becomes their investment. They just simply stay there and the millennials move out. Why? Because for the first time one investment has been made between the whole family, that is the the daughter and the parents, or the son or the parents, who owns this. And then they stay there, and then they go, and the children go away and wherever their destiny takes them. So this is going to be a paradigm shift to what it is today. Today, the investment is done by the parents. Where they cannot buy a property, then the children chip in, right? In that case, the children cannot pay. The parents can pay. The children can stay with them for some time, and then you shift your job, you move away. I think that is going to happen. Second thing, I am not very clear about the number of years the millennials would like to shift and keep paying money for lease. At some point of time, they should start thinking in terms of owning it. I have seen a trend in India, these young millennials. What they do is, let us say they're working in some IT company, they get married, they just buy a small studio apartment or a one bedroom with a living room and a small kitchenette, and they stay there for 2-3 years. And if they have a child, then they move away from that place, that place. And this property is also taken on loan. The banks give them loan because they are earning money. And the mortgage in India is up to 25 years. So what they do is they continue to either keep this apartment, rent it out, give it to somebody else, and go to the next place. Out of the rent that they get, they are able to pay off that rent. So that is, many of these young kids are doing like this. Or they sell it off and then return the money, or take a fresh loan based on the money that they got. Any capital appreciation takes place during this period of 3 to 4 years, that goes to their credit. So this way what is happening is that the rent that you pay, let us say for 10 years, doesn't go waste. There is some, at least some, you're getting back some money which can be used by you. So that way they're also having a property, at the same time they are shifting also wherever they want to do. That flexibility is available, provided the mortgage available is for 25 years minimum. Right? If they take such kind of a mortgage, normally they pay off within 5 to 7 years because the salary that they earn. And if they pay it off in 5 to 7 years, then they can think of a permanent house for them later also, which can become the senior living space subsequently in case the parents are no more. I think we will have to work on this differently. What Diana has told me today is that in my research team I must have more young people.
That's right.
And not younger people like me.
Well, actually, you bring about this this very debate which PropTech is trying to address is about ownership versus lease. Because I don't think PropTech is going to believe that that's the structure of how people the millennials want to think about having a place to stay. Because this is actually more defined by the current financing and banking systems, that you own a place, you own an asset, or you lease it. And lease is a waste of money because you don't actually own it, you're paying somebody else. But I think millennials are looking at, and PropTech companies are looking at shared ownership, which is actually whatever you're paying is part of being an owner. Just that it's not what particular asset that you own. You own the ability to live in a place and you can move around, you're still an owner. So this definition of ownership versus lease is going to change because PropTech companies are understanding that if that is a desire, that the millennials want to feel that whatever they're paying is actually part of being an owner, but it's not owning one piece of anything, it's owning the ability to be part of that network which allows them to live everywhere.
Very fine, Sachin. That can really happen, nothing like it.
Correct.
But given the mindset, at least in India, I don't know, I think Indonesia may be slightly different, the mindset in India still goes for the property.
Agree.
And it will take some time for this shift to take place, that I am on lease, yet I own everything. The fear of lease versus ownership model in India is totally different from what is happening there. So I see what you're saying is very true, that over a period of time, if you ask me even for senior living, the best model is the lease model. Why should you buy a property for your old age? You pay the lease and carry on. And then when the day you are dead, take away and give it to somebody else.
Sure.
I think bring in on this, because I think there's two issues here, and I want to address one of the first ones that you've mentioned here about you having a millennial on your research team. The one piece of advice I would give any single developer in India or Indonesia, they need to have a millennial on their board. And I'm not talking about a family member who's a millennial. I'm talking about an outsider who is the type of person they are trying to attract into their developments. Because the four of us here sitting on a couch talking about this, we cannot understand the mentality of the people we are trying to target if we don't understand them.
That's true.
And that is probably the single most important thing that I would say. Any company out there at the minute needs to have a non-executive director, an advisor who is under the age of 40, who understands the property market, understands the prop tech market, and is fundamentally one of the types of people they're trying to attract, either now or in the future. That's the first thing. I think it's a fundamentally important point about business now.
Sure.
The second thing, Sachin, is what you just mentioned there about this classification of ownership. We have owned properties for centuries. We have owned an entire asset. 100% of the property is either ours or the bank's. I think this it's almost a philosophical debate about what it means to own a property. I think is going to shift fundamentally over the next 10 years because, and I tend to agree kind of completely, which is, and Deanne, I don't know if you agree on this, but I still think that millennials, if they could buy, they probably would. They probably would. So I don't think this is an aspect of leasing versus ownership. I think it is only there because there's this affordability problem.
Okay.
And it's a global issue.
Okay.
Now, that affordability issue, I think, comes about because the traditional form of ownership has always been the same, which is I want to own that entire asset 100%, and the bank might help me if my wages are high enough to justify a mortgage. And I think what we're going to look at over the next 5 to 10 years, I don't think it's as long as that, is we're going to see this convergence of the financial sector and the fintech markets with the property and the prop tech markets coming together to find a different version of what ownership means.
Yeah.
And this could be around the fact that actually, Sachin, you want to buy a new property and what you want to afford is probably a little bit too much out of your pay scale. So what you might say is, you might say, well, the bank aren't going to offer it to me, but I know I could crowdsource 25% of the funds of that property and I'll own 75% of it. And then you could have several thousand people putting in, you know, a small amount of money to help you buy the property that you want. And what they're doing is they're actually owning 25% of your property, which is split amongst many thousands of people. And they're treating that property as a tradable asset themselves. And so you're almost creating a different asset class and a different stock market, which is based purely on property being a liquid asset. And I think this could be one of the most significant enablers of the property market of a generation and a global transition as well, which it gets to, you know, hit the problems that millennials are having. That the middle-aged people, when they suddenly realise, oh my life, I'm actually going to have a third child, I can't afford another house, what do I do? I think we'll see this is a big shift. Fintech, prop tech, financial markets, property markets, all converging together to create an entirely new property market that we'll see in front of us.
Yeah. You're very right. You know, one of the biggest worries, even for the seniors, is the finance part of it, the money part of it, especially in the context of the longevity of age. You know, they want to live, they're living longer, and the money, the cost of care is going to increase. If such a package can be made, the way combined together. See, today's senior citizens cannot get loan. They can't get loan. Maybe if such a thing can happen, perhaps the millennials can even put in some money and have some ownership rights in the same place, and subsequently when they come up to that particular age, they can always move in there. So something like that we have to work it out. But for the shift to take place from the ownership to total lease, as we were suggesting, two things are necessary. One, of course, is we have to have a very clarity in our mind, and that clarity in our mind is going to come from the millennials, because they are whether you like it or not, senior citizens look at the children and seek their advice. See, the role reversal takes place as you age. When your parents were advising you, telling you so many things, then you get married, then you have a partner to share your ideas and carry on. You don't need me. But as I age, I need advice from my children. I start depending upon them, asking them for a number of things. That's where you will have you will tell us that this is how it is. You don't have to worry about owning the property, and then this is what we are going to be doing. So I think that advice will also come from the millennials over a period of time.
So millennials have a role to play in far beyond that. What do you think at the moment? Yes. Yeah.
Diana is a young lady who was born in a particular period of time, but she's still a child to her parents, and she still has the same role to perform. The thing is, we are classifying you into something, into new
Sure.
ones and the baby bloomers.
Yeah.
So I think we have to look at it that way. But you are going to drive this complete technology for the future, and your needs are going to be taken care of by everybody else. We will be the beneficiaries. Please understand that, because our lifespan is not much, but we will benefit out of whatever is happening.
Yeah.
And who will give us that advice?
Yeah. So,
Can I
yeah,
just
sure.
say one thing? I was taught when I was on this trip to respect our elders. So I respect you, Colonel, but I will say one thing. I'm not sure it's about clarity of vision. I think the one point we have to have at the minute in this fundamental period of change is openness.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we can have clarity yet, because I'm not sure we have a solution. And I'm not sure the millennials have a solution. I'm not sure anyone has. I think as owners of companies, as developers of houses, as millennials looking into this marketplace, we all just have to realize that this is all changing, and we have to have openness as to what that vision may be in 5 years' time.
Sure.
And through that, get some very, very clever people on board to get that clarity of vision, and they're more progressive.
Okay.
You have to be open, firstly, within your own family. That's very important. I mean, you can't say that I'm the father and I'm the mother and I know everything, you don't know anything. So that attitude has to change. See, and I must accept that they know more than me. That's the way, because you have got access to such technology, such information which I was taught. So I must accept that, yes, they're well informed. So let me listen to them. So that openness has to come between the children and the parents, and sit down and talk.
Okay. So if you're talking about listening to millennials so that you'll have a better model for senior care, can I ask you that, are you at the moment marketing to millennials, or are you still marketing to the seniors?
See, what we have done a bit of work, not in the same direction as you're talking of, is that I say that whatever product that we give to the seniors today, the technology upgradation has already taken place when we have planned it, and it should be able to absorb technology changes for the next 10 years. Unfortunately, we are not able to predict beyond that.
Yeah.
Now, when you read all these things, IoT and artificial intelligence, and the kind of a housing that she desires to have, and it is possible today, I think we also will have to look at it differently. Our design model will have to change over a period of time.
Yeah, but I'm trying to ask a little bit more about, in terms of your product offering is going to the seniors. But should you not think of making your product offering to the millennials, because they want their parents and their senior care to be taken?
That is happening today also.
Yeah.
This, whatever design we make, the design and the decision-making portion of it, when it comes to the children are there.
Yeah. But is it packaged in a way that the millennials see the value rather than the senior
They'll have
care?
to be both ways.
Yeah.
Or I have to be very clear in my mind that the millennials are going to take the decision for me, and then they will do the needful. There are such parents. They say, we don't know much about this. My son or my daughter or daughter-in-law, they will
decide.
And decide.
Yeah.
We said fine.
Okay.
For us, that is not a big deal. See, what is my commitment? My commitment is to provide the services and care to the seniors, which will satisfy the today's children and also the millennials. If I have to upgrade my services and care to their requirement, I have to be prepared to do it.
Correct.
That's all.
I think in the future, this whole senior care thing will be more popular. But now I think your product is offering us as millennials to place our parents in your place. Right? I think in the future, you will have more varieties, like you have a lot of elderly or senior care in a lot of places, and then for millennials like me who still wants to live with their parents, our parents can probably visit your senior care and hang out with friends and do exercises like Zumba and do massages, right? And then come back home to our home again and have dinner with us, with the family.
It's happening. Like when we are part of a township, the son or the daughter lives in the normal real estate, the parents are living in the senior community. If the son and daughter want to go abroad on a holiday, they want to leave the children behind, they leave them here. And they're very happy, you know, the parents are also happy, the child, they all have their own space, their independence, but they're just next to each other. So wherever it can happen, it can happen. But if they move away, then they know that they'll be taken care of by the...
Okay. So Diana, I have a question for you. So far we've talked about how you think as a millennial and your aspirations. Have you ever thought about when you are senior, would your habits change, or would all the millennial aspirations carry forward into senior care?
Yeah, I think if I get old, I still wanna have fun, have activities with friends, but I still wanna be close to my children, with my family. So I think, as I said before, it's a good idea to have senior care everywhere. So if my children are busy, I can visit my friends in the senior care and have some activities. But then I can come back home when my children are finished with their work and have dinner together.
Okay. So
one more thing that I want to tell you is that the children love the grandparents up to a certain age. When they become teenagers, they tell you, "Grandpa, you're telling me the story for the 6th time." And they are not paying for it. Okay? So at some point of time, the children don't find grandparents very interesting. And that we also know. So we enjoy only up to that when they're teenagers. After, like Sachin's daughter is 13. I don't think she will be very impressed by my stories. I've heard it a number of times.
So maybe there's a great opportunity for having shared families. Like it doesn't have to be your own grandchildren. You just need to be surrounded by family.
Rent a child.
Rent a child, rent a family.
But can I just actually pick up on that point? 'Cause I think it's quite an interesting one. Myself and the Colonel have been talking a lot about some interesting projects around the world around this concept of senior living and care. And care is arguably one of the most important aspects of senior living. And there's interesting projects around the world where millennials are struggling for affordable homes. Senior living are struggling for good quality senior care. And what there are some projects, especially Holland are leading the way in this, is where they're combining care which is given by millennials, and in return for them giving their services to look after the senior citizens, they are giving very affordable rental solutions within this care structure of senior living homes. And I think that's a fascinatingly, it's not just about property, that is about it's an aspirational model, it's a societal model, and fundamentally it shows that human beings can actually care for one another.
Wow.
And it doesn't necessarily mean it's the mum, the dad, the son, the daughter of the grandparents. It's completely different people.
Sure.
But it's combining two worlds which don't normally combine, but each have a problem which they're trying to solve. And I think that's a fascinating model.
I couldn't agree more. So I think we should close this conversation for today. But I think there's a lot to talk about, and we'll take this up as we go along. It will be great to have, every time we could do interviews on Skype, for example, and we can have a chat that goes on to our channel. So thank you very much. Yes.
I think we all need to keep thinking and letting you know what we are thinking. Yes. That's very important.
Yes.
Not all the time though.
And just keep, like we have a guy called our DGM, digital marketing. Anybody takes any photograph, they dump it on him. It is his decision to put it up or not to put it up. But we have to give it to him. So we keep throwing any ideas coming to us, to you, or whichever way you want to take it. You take it for discussion, or you want to take it for discussion, it's up to you. But at least we are telling you what we are thinking.
Yeah. I think that's important. Sharing this information will lead to different kinds of solutions being found. Sure. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.